being that the building would be lost to have that, make that happen, rather than the building being converted.
Councillor Everett.
I suppose I'm probably one of the few people in this room that's actually been inside the building, because when we went to go and have a look at it as the planning committee, that time we did actually go inside of the building, so I suspect the chair was also there as well. I think it would be highly unlikely for it to be viable to refurbish it, because of all sorts of reasons. So I get the point about why it probably has to be knocked down reluctantly. Has a viability study been done that can actually help us to assimilate that point?
So within the original submission, a survey report was provided to sort of say that it was structurally unsound, but it wasn't undertaken by a specialist for heritage buildings, so that's what Essex County were requesting. That has since been provided. That report has confirmed that it is possible to convert the building, but it would require extensive works to do so. We've not received any further information as to whether it's economically viable to undertake those works. I've heard from a couple of the speakers tonight that it wouldn't be possible, but that's the first that I've been told of that.
Thank you. That was actually the economic point that I was trying to get to. Because if it isn't economically viable to do that, then I can see this just crumbling and falling away and rotting. And I don't think that's a good idea in the middle of a conservation area.
Councillor Scott, I apologise because I just didn't realise that you were coming back on the officer's comments, so I am sorry. Please do that.
It's okay, Chairman. I've been there before in your position, so I know how it goes. So, if we refuse, say, the application to demolish, and then years down the line that something happens to the building, would we at TDC, because it's in the conservation area, ask the owners or the new owners or whoever owns that building to do repair works to keep it in keeping with the area? And when Essex Heritage came down and have a look, or did they just do a normal desktop exercise? Did they come and have a look? And did they look at the other side of the road where there's new dwellings been built there? Or did they just not look there and just look ahead?
Yeah, to answer your second point, they have definitely visited the site because I have personally visited the site with them in the past. I can't guarantee that they have as part of this current application, but I know they have previously. And I'm so sorry, but I've forgotten what the first question was. If you could just repeat.
That's all right. If we uphold the refusal and they are refused, we don't allow demolition, and then years down the line that the house starts to decay, would we, as planning officers and enforcement officers, to tow and try and maintain the building as said, because it's in the conservation area?
So there is, because it's not a listed building, there's no obligations as such to maintain it as a listed building because it's a non-designated. The NPPF kind of molds them together, but actually in law they're separate as well. So they are separate matters. So it's not a listed building, so there's no obligation in that context. So therefore, as a normal building, they are obligated under your normal enforcement powers of an untidy site. So if this development did decay to such a degree that we would deem there'd be either a public risk in terms of dangerous structure or an untidy site that was to such a degree affecting the amenity of the surroundings, then we do have standard, I'm going to call them standard, but standard enforcement powers to act as necessary. If that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Payment. That's very useful, and thank you, Mr. Pingram. My other issue is, I know. After us sitting on site, visiting on site, and we did have a look, and myself and other councillors had a look and discussed. We went round the front, and looked at the street scene and stuff. The only issue I have is there's double yellow lines on this side, and there's no double yellow lines or any restrictions on the other side, as I can see on the other side of the road. The only concern I have would be the parking provision in that area. I'll just wait to other councillors what they've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. If there are no further questions, we'll now go into the debate. Comments? Councillor Alexander, then Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, I've listened greatly to the debate that has taken place. It's been very interesting too. I've learned quite a lot, to be perfectly frank. And one thing that has confused me is why no one has made the relevant move to apply to have a list on that building. Because it's an acceptable thing. They will then stop everything on it while they investigate and to see whether it's worthy of a list. Yeah, sorry, got that from the internet and help from my colleague. I was quite taken aback by it. Okay, so that's one thing. The other issue here is, as far as I can see, and I'm working on the balance of probabilities. The balance of probability is that in the future, if it doesn't improve, they will get permission to demolish it outside of what decision we make here tonight. I believe that the building is rather beautiful. It's in a conservation area, and the MPPF said weight should be put in conservation areas, great weight. Essex County Council are concerned, and we've heard that there's give and take with parking. Well, what is the point of having a policy of parking if you can gerrymander it about to fit? The point I'm trying to make is that on a balance of probability, that building will come down. But whether it comes down tonight or not, and I don't think that I want to be going against the decisions of my officers, Chair. So at that point,
Councillor Alexander, was that a proposal? For the recommendation to refuse the application?
I'm sorry,
your microphone seems to be...
Why don't I use the old-fashioned way? I'm going to say yes, I'm going to approve it.
As per the recommendation in our papers. So that's to refuse the application. Sorry, Councillor Alexander, I know you're having problems with your microphone, so if you'd like to use Councillor Goldman's. The recommendation in our papers is to refuse.
Yes,
and you're happy with that?
I'm approving the refusal.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
Right, okay. I'm happy with that now.
Fighting with this electronic equipment.
Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'm still not quite sure what my colleague is actually proposing, but I'm certainly, if you, I will just describe what I want to say. I've heard all the answers, and Mr. Pegram has said that this is very much one of those in balance. It could be not. So, what is different in this case? Well, when we look at the heritage people, they say less than substantial harm. that's counted, I would suggest, with the fact that we're going to gain 3 useful properties. Highways, it appears, are saying, well, are they saying turn it down because of lack of parking? When you read highways, it's a funny statement. They say the proposal is contrary to DM1 and DM8, but leave us to make our own minds up whether we react to that or not. It's not the usual highways saying you should refuse on the strength of that. And then just again on highways, there's a statement on page 50, which I find rather peculiar. The Highway Authority will always protect the principal use of the highway as a right of free and safe passage to highway users. In view of the previous application, this seems that you get an answer on one application, you get the contrary on the next one. But let's look at the benefits. The benefits are that we've got a property which we saw yesterday is very nearly falling down. There's a very old brace, which I haven't seen that style brace in there, and there's had to be 3 or 4 brick buttresses to help holding it up. I was told yesterday that we couldn't go in because it wasn't safe. Well, I can only comment on that we'd got crash hats, but we didn't go in. And I'm willing to say that it is unsafe. I went into it several years ago. We've been told tonight that's 7 years ago. So what are the benefits? The benefits are that the Great Oakley population will get 3 brand new properties for what they require. So what are we losing? We're losing another, an old building, damn nearly falling down, and then we're getting a replacement building which looks very, very similar to the existing one, the same amount of windows and doors and everything else. So we are getting a new building. I don't know whether you did get approval from Councillor in the end, but I'm quite willing to prepare or propose an application to approve. But you will have to...
I'm just going to clear up the confusion here, just so that we are not confused. The proposal that was made by Councillor Alexander is to approve the recommendation in our papers, which is to refuse the application. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, and I would like to support Councillor White's proposal in the other direction. So we have a proposal and a seconder for that.
I didn't have a seconder for your proposal, Councillor Alexander. No, okay. So we have a recommendation to approve, a proposal to approve the application. Mr. Pateman-G.
Obviously, Joanne might want to come in on this particular point, but ultimately, if you are looking to overturn and approve, given the recommendation before you, you will also need reasons for that approval. If you need assistance, please feel free to ask.
Right, so I shall go to the next on the list, which was Councillor Alexander, but I think you've already done that one. So we'll go to Councillor Scott, then Councillor Everett.
Just point of clarification, Councillor Alexander has moved supporting of the Council's papers recommendation for refusal.
No seconder.
No seconder as yet. I just want to know, is Councillor White? I haven't heard Councillor White to say whether he's proposing approval. I know he's talking on the assumption what Councillor Alexander is saying, and I just want to know what Councillor White is proposing to do.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm proposing accept well, sorry, let's get it right, that we approve, no, start again. We approve knocking down the building and starting again. That's what I'm really saying, putting it bluntly. And it's purely on the grounds that this is urgently needed, that the building is in a very sad state, particularly sad state, and that for highways to say that we should have car parking, they don't actually say that. They talk about the proposal is contrary to DM1 and DM8 in county, but it doesn't actually say anything stronger than that. So I'm proposing that we actually should grant permission, if I put it that way, to do the demolition and rebuild. Councillor Everett?
Councillor Everett and then Councillor Scott.
I think the point that Mr. Pateman-G was making, that he wanted reasons, I hope that this is helpful and we take a contrary view to officers of the community benefit, that we feel that it is significant, more significant, that they took into account.
Are you happy with that, Councillor White?
Very much.
Okay. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, I thank Councillor White in confirming, because I think people who may be watching this thinking approval, refusal, supporting, reproval, and the people out there are going to think, what on earth are those councillors on about? So I thank Councillor White to confirming his proposal before I've made my mind up.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Mr. Pateman-G.
I appreciate it is unusual that a recommendation of refusal comes forward and this debate is heading in a particular direction. And in order to assist members, if I may take a moment, can I make a suggestion in respect of the conversation so far, in respect of Councillor White and Councillor Everett, and I appreciate your assistance. You are looking at an approval because you are considering that the parking is sufficient within the area, and you are also giving considerable public benefit to the provision of, and I will give you some examples and you can tell me if this is right, the provision of small homes, the enabled community multi-use area, because the development as a whole would enable this to come forward, and you consider it unlikely to be viable in any other form, and you're also perhaps also mindful of the length of time that this building has been in disuse for the time being. And I would also then suggest you may consider some conditions, which I hopefully have a copy of some possible conditions that you may wish to consider. I would certainly say you need to consider the conditions of asking for 3 years from the date of permission. That's the standard one we would add to any application. But I'm not going to go through all of these, but you need to consider whether or not there are conditions you wish to add. An archaeological evaluation of the site, because that's a consultation request. Materials, exact materials, because obviously we want to make sure the materials are correct. So you can perhaps delegate us to put the appropriate conditions, or we can run through these. That's for you, or indeed Gary can correct me.
Thank you. Chairman, I don't know whether this would be helpful, but in the interest of making sure that members are comfortable with the kind of conditions that may be required for a scheme like this, could we take a short deferment to perhaps get some copies prepared and circulated so that that can inform the next stage of this decision?
Yes, we can have a break for 5-10 minutes. Fine with me. Okay, we'll be back in about 5-10 minutes. welcome back to part 3. And we now have in front of us the potential conditions for Councillor White's proposal to refuse the recommendation that was in our papers. So if you'd all like to have a look at what we have in front of us. Councillor Scott.
While councillors are looking at these, I'd like to ask a few other questions, if I may. It's come about while me getting my water. Okay, so the application they want is to rebuild this house like for like and have an infill. What is the impact having on the Maybush pub? Is the Maybush pub listed? And having a new build connecting to a listed building, what effects would that have on that neighbouring building? And the neighbouring property, I don't know the name of it or the number, but the white house, if I say white house, next door to the red house, that one there on the left, what would be the impact on their property in terms of demolition? Because I have a concern, if you're going to demolish that building, what impact will it have on the neighbouring property? And what impact would be building a new build up to the Maybush? And I just want to know whether the Maybush is listed or some historical significance on that. Thank you.
Yep, so first and foremost, the Maybush is not listed. And secondly, I think you're sort of delving more into sort of building control matters than planning matters, about the specific impacts. I assume you mean in terms of the sort of demolition and construction right on there. Yeah, and as John's just rightly pointed out, there's a Party Wall Act, which is a separate matter aside from planning as well. So I think these matters are slightly separate from this application.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Officer. I want to mention it because I think it's right to mention it, because if people out there listening or watching our recording will say, well, what about the impact of the pub and the neighbouring property? So that's a question I asked, and I thank you for the answer. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. While we are looking at the conditions for the proposal, I shall just add my little bit in. On this occasion, I am reluctant to go against the advice and recommendation that we have from Essex County Council Heritage and our officers, which is to refuse the application. I'm very reluctant to go against that. I've looked at it, I've weighed it up, but I am very reluctant to go against it. So that's my view on this. Any more comments before we go to the vote? No? Okay, so we have the proposal from Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Everett, as per the conditions that we now have in front of us, to refuse the recommendation and approve the application. So if I could have a show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And those against? 1, 2, 3. Chairman's casting vote. So that one falls. So I shall make a proposal to approve the recommendation as per our papers, to refuse the application.
Chairman, sorry if I may. I think we have 7 members in attendance. Can we redo the vote, please? Because I recall 3 for, 3 against, but I'm not quite sure what the 7th member was. So could, for the
Of course.
the purpose
Yes.
of clarity,
Yep.
could I ask you, Chairman, to please rerun
How
the
many
vote?
did you have, Bethany? Oh, right, okay. Well, we'll do that again then. Okay, so those 4 to refuse the recommendation and approve the application. So those 4, 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3. And those against? Ah, there was an abstention. Sorry. Right, so that's still 3. So it's still the chairman's casting vote. So may I go ahead with my proposal then, if you don't mind? My proposal was to approve the recommendation by officers to refuse the application. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Alexander. And there is also the original initial update sheet from our officers as well. Thank you. Okay, so could I have a vote on that one, please? As per our papers, to refuse the application with the update sheet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? 1, 2, 3. Abstentions? None. So that application has been refused. We'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is item 7, A32500451, 3 Orchard View, Wivenhoe Road, change of use for land to garden. And to present this application, Mr. Pateman G. Thank you, Mr. Pateman G.
That one? There you go. Thank you. So, item number 3. This is number 3, Orchard View in Alresford. And as it says, it's the change of use of the current land to garden to form part of the domestic curtilage of number 3. You visited the site, and obviously you've seen it is a grassed area enclosed with some hedging and a track to the south that leads to other properties. This is adjacent to number 3 on the eastern side. So that's the area outlined in red. I don't know if you can see my mouse. No, hang on. Let me change the pointer. Laser. There you go. So the red line is the, say, upside down boot shape, and the current property is the blue line there. So this would be an extension of the current garden. Moving right. Aerial photograph, but you have been there as well. Details of the current fencing and some photographs of the current site as it's being maintained at the moment. And that's all I really have, because it is just a change of use that's before members, and the recommendation is one of approval as set out in your papers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pateman G. This application is before us because the applicant is a member of staff. There are no speakers, so questions for the officer, please. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. Along the northern boundary, next to the B1027, can I ask, those mixture of trees, of pine, oaks and such like along there, do you know if there be any alterations or any plan alterations from that roadside?
Not as part of this proposal. This proposal is purely the change of use of land only in terms of its use. It doesn't propose any works.
I know what the Alresford Parish Council have offered a neutral response, declaring interest. I'm also an Alresford Parish Councillor too. And some parish councillors were concerned that this could then open up to further development thereon. And that was their concern going forward. However, if it's just going to be a garden and only a garden, then I'm happy to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Is that a proposal?
I think it's right and proper that I don't propose it being a district councillor and parish councillor
Fine.
for the said ward of Alresford. I'll leave
Yep.
it to my other colleagues.
Councillor Alexander.
In the absence of Councillor Scott, I'm quite happy to propose that. We have no knowledge, no crystal balls. We can't tell what's going to come through our doors in 6 months' time, and we're only looking at this what's before us, and on its merit.
Thank you, Councillor Alexander. Councillor Smith.
I'm happy to second that.
So Councillor Smith seconded. So, as per the recommendation on page 68, to approve the application, may I have a show of hands, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Against? Abstentions? 1. Application is approved. Thank you, members. And the last application we have this evening is item 8, which is A4 to 5 00324 full HH 61 Colchester Road, Holland-on-Sea. And again, this one is before us because the applicant is a member of staff. Over to you, Mr. Pateman-G.
Yes, thank you, and that's correct. Again, another one because the delegation is that all obviously council staff members have their applications come before you for the reasons of transparency. The application is at 61 Colchester Road. You have of course been there as well, and this is simply for the householder application for the rear extension with a flat roof, single story. That's the location, the red line plan within a urbanised street. Aerial photograph, just to put that into context, and some photographs which you should have seen anyway because you've been there, but the conservatory is essentially the focal point there. That would be replaced with an extension across. If I just scroll my way down those pictures and get to the plans, you can see that the conservatory disappears and we have a full-length extension across the back of the bungalow, single story, flat roof. It is just over permitted development in terms of 0.4, so it's very much just a small amount of, beyond what could have been done in any event, but this is the proposal before you. Thank you very much, and the recommendation is approval.
Thank you, Mr. Pateman-G. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Pateman-G. You actually anticipated my question. So we're talking, it would under normal circumstances have gained permitted development, but it's just slightly over. We're talking minimal. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that I'm ward councillor for this particular area. I'm not predetermined, so I feel quite happy to sit on this.
Thank you. Councillor Goldman.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to recommend that we accept this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Goldman. Seconder.
I second that, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Could I have a show of hands for approval as per recommendation in our papers? That is unanimous. Thank you, members. So that just leaves me to thank you all for your time and remind you that the next meeting of the Tendring District Council Planning Committee will be on Tuesday, the 10th of June. And good night.